Hey folks, welcome back. Um, Today at work, I was thinking how happy I am at my new program. It's not new anymore because I transferred in October, and I was doing some doctoring, and it was super fun. I actually knew a few things, so I kind of wanted to just chat about why I transferred and when someone should consider transferring. So just to refresh, like applied to ortho, didn't match, soaped into a prelim medicine spot. It was the only spot I got in the soap. I was super desperate, just took whatever I could get. And later I realized though that it wasn't for me. So just to kind of go through the first thing I did, there's contracts, there's rules for this stuff. So I consulted an attorney. I mean, this is like a life-changing decision, of course. So I would suggest, I'm not saying you have to pay for an attorney, but I did a free consultation and I got all the information that I could possibly get for free until he literally told me if you need more information, you need to schedule and book and pay like 300, 400 bucks. But at that point, if you're strategic with your questions, I got all the information that I needed. The main piece of information, the most important one, was the NRMP match rules and the contract rules, which the attorney, brought to my attention. And then later, of course, you went to med school, so, I could read and I figured them out. And then I reached out to people at my school and, some were very helpful. One thing that I was able to do was delay my graduation by a year. Initially, I wanted to delay it. I delayed my graduation by 1 month. Initially, I wanted to delay it by a year, but they said no because I was already matched. And turns out that was the best thing for me anyways. So I delayed my graduation by 1 month. In that time, I spoke to other surgeons, internal medicine doctors, anyone who I'd worked with. I reached out to everybody. The first piece of advice I got was talk to your new program director, see if you can, work out whatever things you feel like you need with them, which was for me an elective in radiology and elective in orthopedics, because I wanted to apply to both. So I did. I reached out to my program director. I asked him three things for those two electives, and I asked him, if I find a research year in ortho, will you let me defer my match and my start date a year? And he said no. He said you can't defer, and he has a right to say that. He said I can release you completely, and you can go pursue whatever you want, or you need to show up, whatever date it was in June, or I'm going to report you to an RMP. And then he said for the ortho and radiology electives, he'll try. And this was after like a week and a half of trying to reach him. So already I was kind of bummed. There was nothing inspiring about it. So, but I was stuck in my contract and I didn't, I fulfilled my commitment. So the other thing, I graduated from a, American school. I'm not a foreign medical graduate, and I spent time after undergrad doing the post-bac so I can graduate from American medical school. When I went to started this prelim in internal medicine, it was at a community hospital, and it was basically the only one who had graduated from an American school. And I felt out of place, and I felt like there was always some gut feeling. You can call it arrogance, but it was just like I deserve, or I want, or I work towards something more than being at a community hospital that's not an academic place and that's not like a super robust institution. The other big flaw was they didn't have an orthopedic residency. They didn't have a radiology residency. And even though I spoke to my program director, my chiefs, the coordinators, there was no way. They didn't have the resource to put me in a radiology elective or in a orthopedic elective, for sure. So, that's one thing, it wasn't really helping my goals. The other crazy thing, though, that really made me just decide, it's time to transfer. It's time to look for something else, is about 2 months in, I'm on an elective. It was like a poem elective. And this was like super chill. It was like 3 hours in the morning, and then you didn't have anything else to do for the rest of the day. So I talked to my chief. My program director was out of town at the time. But I went to the chain of command, followed protocol, and I asked my chief, "Hey, can I go shadow the IR guys during that time, like from noon to 5?" He said, "Yeah, go for it." I made sure that he communicated this to me in writing. So I did for like 2 days. And then somehow someone heard about it, and I got called and said this is against company, against our hospital policy, internal medicine people are not supposed to be in the radiology suite, you're not allowed. So I was like, okay, and they cornered me. It was super super weird. I had gotten permission, and then suddenly the chiefs and the coordinator told me you can't do this. My program director was out of town at the time, so I just at that point I just realized this is how am I gonna? I sent them my orthopedic personal statement in the SOAP. I sent them saying that I'm interested in DR. I was kind of at a low point, wondering why did they even take me if they don't even want to help me to go where I want to go. So when that kind of realization dawned on me, I mean, then it just became clear I need to do something, or else my career is not going to move forward. At least that's what I believed. Maybe it wasn't as true as I thought it was, but I waited for my program director to come back, and then I just had a candid conversation with him, and he was supportive. So then I basically had no reason not to transfer at that point, because he was if you find an opportunity, you want to take it, I'll write you a letter, I'll help you out. So it kind of taught me two things, I'll do a video about how to transfer later, but this is really just why to transfer. I really think you shouldn't transfer unless the place where you are at does not allow you to meet your goals. If it's plain and simple, there's a difference between saying I'm unhappy, or the hours are bad, or there's this thing or this that thing, because every program is going to have some deficit, every program is going to have some plus. But in the case where there's just no, or you don't see any outlet forward towards whatever you want, then you're kind of forced to consider. And I would talk to your program director first, not because you have to, but I promise you, having your program director as your ally is way more convenient for you, and is going to be much more productive for you in the long run than doing something rash and sudden behind their back, and having them find out from some organization, or from some attorney, or from some random program director from another institution, oh, this person, their contract is now expired or something. You don't want to do that. So yeah, that's my story about why I transferred, in brief. And yeah, happy to hear from other people who've transferred, anything like that. And in the future, I'll talk a little bit about it more. But again, just to reiterate, you don't transfer lightly. You only transfer if you really, really are unhappy with the career trajectory that you're at your current program.